consistently, the fire apparatus that have been yellow, lime green, have half the accidents than the red fire trucks do, or the red and black, or the red and white. And this has been consistent for 50 years.
Enchanted Sky Media.
From the Enchanted Sky Studios in Prescott, Arizona, this is Code 3, the Firefighters Podcast, hosted by award-winning journalist Scott Orr. Code 3 features interviews with leading members of the fire service, discussing firefighting strategies, tactics, and other topics you need to know more about. Now, here's Scott.
That's right, and I will not let Parkinson's stop me. Thank you for joining me again here on Code 3. You are listening to the show for and about firefighters. Let's get started. What color is a fire engine? Well, if you're a fan of traditional fire helmets, then I assume you'd prefer your apparatus be red. You know, fire engine red. But for years, since the 70s, there's been that nagging question of conspicuity. What color is safest? What color do drivers see most readily? And in today's world of highly distracted drivers, does color matter? My guest today is Dr. Stephen Solomon. He's taken a look at the data that's been collected and he has some opinions. Stephen is an optometrist. He's also a veteran firefighter with 17 years as a captain and 17 years as a fire commissioner. He's a hazmat tech and a TRT supervisor in Tioga County, New York. He's worked on projects to make fire apparatus safer. And you know that reflective and fluorescent trim on your turnouts? He worked with 3M to develop that. And Dr. Stephen Solomon joins me now. Welcome to Code 3.
And thank you for asking me to be with your audience.
So let's get right into this. What's the most current evidence to support the idea that drivers see fire engines that are safety yellow more readily than red ones?
Well, if they're safety vehicles like fire trucks, we know from the studies out there that the red fire trucks have involved in twice as many visibility accidents. Some of the data actually reports that the red apparatus have 3 times as many accidents as equivalent lime yellow vehicles.
So then the obvious question is, why is that?
A lot of it has to do with visibility. The eyes see much further away than the ears can hear. The eyes also are very good in the periphery. The yellow colors are picked up by the eyes much sooner than the red colors in the periphery. The human eye is much more sensitive to the range of yellow colors than to the red colors. The human eye is known to be red blind at night and relatively red weak during the daytime.
But with all the flashing lights and strobe equipment on fire apparatus, it seems like the vehicle color should barely matter. Why does it still matter?
Everybody asks that, and I think that is probably a good way to start this conversation. We have 2 sets of vehicles in the studies that I've done. One set with modern lights and sirens in red, and then the same lights and siren setups in the lime yellow apparatus or the yellow or the greenish yellow apparatus. And with lights and sirens on each type of vehicle, we still find that the visibility issue is superior to anything else you can add to a vehicle. I'm not saying that sirens aren't important. I'm not saying lights aren't important. I'm not saying that retroreflective fluorescent material isn't important. They all are. But the color of the vehicle is paramount when it comes to cutting accident rates for visibility accidents, intersection accidents, which are the most severe accidents that we have in the fire service. And that color, the lime yellow colors, perform very, very well because people see it and they react to it. And let's face it, the safety of a fire vehicle, of a firefighter and the vehicle, is an additive process. Everything is important. So you can't take the color out and say, okay, we've got light sirens tape, therefore we don't need color, because color is an active, vibrant participant in vehicle safety.
Should the flashing lights or strobes be lime green as well?
No. Lights are controlled by state law, and the different states require different types of lights. And there are several categories of lights that we know what they mean. There are amber lights, and they are used in certain requirements, red lights, white lights, blue lights, and green lights. So without running afoul of all the different state laws, stay with the colors that we most readily use. And then, of course, many people also use a white light involved in the flashing light armamentarium, and that's fine.
Now, what do you think of colors like white, which is used by agencies like Mesa Fire, or even blue, the color of Lexington Fire Apparatus, among others?
What we know is that when we did our most recent study, I had a subcategory of white apparatus. And predictably, the white apparatus, in terms of accident prevention, safety, performed better than the red apparatus, not as well as the yellow and lime yellow apparatus. There are all sorts of minority colors that are available, blue and green and different shades and hues. Some people have reused pink. I've seen black. I've seen forest green, all of them. But the major colors, red, white, and lime yellow, or the yellows are the best.
All right. I lived in Tucson back in the early 80s when the fire department changed the color to safety yellow from red. During that time, a chief told me that a Budweiser beer truck driver noticed that people would pull over for his red truck, and that was without lights or siren. Now Tucson, like a lot of other cities, has switched back to red. What do you make of that?
Nothing. It's an anecdotal story. Sounds good. I've heard others. I've heard that wild turkeys were chasing red fire trucks one time. Therefore, they changed their fire trucks from red to another color. I heard that one city had an orphanage for boys, and the boys kept turning the fire alarms in to see the red fire trucks come, so they changed their fire apparatus to gray. There are as many stories as you want. None of them are of any statistical significance. None of them have any bearing on safety. I would pull over for a beer truck and hope he stopped right with me, you know.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm a firefighter.
So let me ask you this then. What do you make of these agencies who switch colors back and forth? I mean, there was a time when several agencies went to safety yellow because of studies like this, but a lot of them have gone back to red. Why is that, and what do you make of that?
That's my fire hose story.
All right.
And as the chief changes, the fire hose changes. If one chief says we're going to use 4-inch large diameter hose, the next chief says we're using 5. There are a lot of reasons why people change. Most of them have, in terms of the apparatus color, have nothing to do with research and safety. They get hung up in traditional issues, and if you want to paint your fire truck red because it's traditional, that's a good reason. It's not safe, but it's a good reason. At least it's explainable. People change all the time. The other thing is, we haven't had research out in a while. I haven't published any in a while, which is why I brought this out. And the last really good research that was out on it was in the Journal of Safety Research, which is from the National Safety Council, published a very in-depth study, and then that was back in the 95 or 96. Most of the people in the fire service weren't around when these studies were published. Many people aren't even aware of the safety studies and the results of the safety studies that point to yellow, and lime green as safe colors, or why they are, and just assumed that, well, fire trucks are okay any color. And I'll give you a good current example. Right now, a lot of people buy a black over red fire truck, a black roof, red truck.
Right, like Chicago.
Chicago's had it for years. They've been black over red for as long as I can remember, and I've been around a while. But there is no reason for a black over red fire truck from a safety point of view. I spoke to one local fire chief, and he turned to me and said, we did it because it's sexy and we think it's pretty. And that's not a reason to change, but that's why he did it. I never knew from a visibility perspective that there could be a color combination or a color worse than red to be able to see a fire truck. And then I saw up close some red and black fire trucks and immediately realized that they were probably one of the most invisible types of trucks that you could see compared to the other colors that you had choices of.
A minute ago, you said that you could paint your truck whatever color you wanted. You could paint it red, but that's not safe.
Right.
Were you exaggerating, or is red really not safe?
Oh, no, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, we're seeing the studies. And look, these studies go back at this time 50 years. So we have 50 years of research where we can look at fire apparatus accidents as they've occurred. I got to say, this type of statistical research is not easy. It sounds so simple until you get into it and you realize what you're dealing with. But consistently, the fire apparatus that have been yellow, lime green have half the accidents than the red fire trucks do, or the red and black, or the red and white. And this has been consistent for 50 years. This is not a flash in the pan. It's not a fad. It is a very real phenomenon. The interesting thing came about. Recently, I was called from Ohio State University, actually, and one of the professors there called me and said, how come your early studies in the 70s, published in the 80s, and your new study, 2019, show an accident rate where the lime yellow trucks are twice as safe? But your study for the Journal of Safety Research said that the lime yellow trucks were 3 times as safe. Why is there a difference in your data? Is there an error? And the response was no. The 1996 study, a study not seen much in the fire service, it didn't get much fire service play, but in the safety world got a lot of interest. We conducted the study very differently, and it was a very different statistical analysis that was, from a scientific point of view, was much more accurate. But we could do it because we used a smaller database, and all of that was so that we could control variables, so that when people said to me, hey, it's not the color of the fire truck, it's the lights and the sirens, the way you started out, Scott, we can say, hey, wait a minute, look, all of the trucks in the study had lights and sirens. You know, we're comparing apples and apples. And we know that given all of these things, color plays a definite role.
So I've got to imagine that as a firefighter, you feel pretty lonely on this crusade to change apparatus color. What kind of reaction do you get from other firefighters?
It depends. Some of them like it, some of them don't. It just depends what people like or don't like. I would say this, and it's really important when you get into understanding colors, and a lot of people do on a different level, and we're not going to talk safety for a minute, but understanding color. Lime yellow, and especially lime yellow and lime green, and yellow to some degree, are very attention-getting colors. They're right at the peak of attention-getting. They can be annoying. The red color is the color of love, the color of passion, the color of intensity on a psychological level. It is a warm color that people like. So it's easy to like a color, especially a red one. It takes us a different perspective to realize that because you like a color for psychological reasons, it may not be the vehicle color that you want to use to be safe on your emergency vehicle. I got to tell you, I would not paint my bedroom lime yellow, but the lime yellow does draw a tremendous amount of attention. Difficult to shut out. And then when you start to look at the weather environments, the different climates that you see fire trucks in, the different backgrounds, what we call camouflage, lime yellow, yellow, and the yellow-green do not camouflage easily. They stand out in the street scene. The red has a big tendency to camouflage out, and at night disappears.
You've been advocating for safety yellow fire apparatus for some time now. Do you run into people on the street, so to speak, who say, oh, yeah, you're that yellow fire engine guy?
Oh, yeah, from all over the country. People do that. I mean, I meet firefighters. I've gotten emails and letters, certainly over the years, not just the country, worldwide. And then they will come up with a question, or a newspaper will call and say, we have this particular situation. From your perspective, what can you share with us? And that's all over. Yes, I have people that do that. I have people that say, you know, I saw the new highway signs, and they're your lime yellow. No, that's not my lime yellow, but yeah, that brought out the concept. Nobody ever mentioned lime yellow until I went out and did the safety work on it. But you know, you're seeing most of the highway vests now are retroreflective fluorescent with lime yellow tape. You're seeing it on probably the majority of fire gear. You're seeing it on the safety jackets. Then you're seeing it outside the fire service on highway signs, on a lot of the retroreflective fluorescent material in general use. You're seeing it on a lot of bicycle and motorcycle enthusiasts. So this is a widespread color. It's here to stay. The big thing is, Scott, it works. It really, really works. And it works because what you see first, you react to first. And reaction time is what makes us safe or not. See it first, react faster, better outcome of driving.
Given that you are the well-known advocate expert on this topic, do you run up against traditionalists who want to argue about it?
Absolutely, and I don't mind.
What can you say to them?
But I've said to you, all I can do is I present the science. My job is not to change people's minds that will look at me and say, my grandfather rode on a red fire truck, and he was the chief. And my father was the chief after him on a red fire truck. Fire trucks are red. You know, there's no argument against that. You know, what do you say? The only thing I can say, you can do traditional or you can do safety, but you cannot do both.
Okay, that makes the point pretty clearly, I think. Dr. Stephen Solomon, thanks for being with me on Code 3 today.
Scott, thank you for asking me, and be safe.
And we put some more information about conspicuity and fire apparatus color on our website at code3podcast.com/red. Check it out. Don't forget you can support this podcast by making a monthly pledge. Are you enjoying Code 3? Do you get something out of it? Are you still listening this far into the show? If you said yes to any or all of those, please help keep Code 3 going. Pledge $1 a month, $5, $10, or even more. It all counts. Head over to code3podcast.com/support to join the people who are already supporting the show. All right, that's it. That's all for this edition of Code 3. This time we talked about what the safest colors for fire apparatus might be. Where do you stand on this? Are you solidly in line with the people who believe red is the only color for a fire engine? Or do you like safety yellow or green? I'd like to find out what you think and why. Just email me, scott@code3podcast.com, or leave a voicemail at 562-337-9902. I'll read your comments and play them back on a future show. Thank you for listening today. I'll be back next time with more, and I hope you'll be here. I'm Scott Orr, and until then, stay safe.
Code 3 is a production of Enchanted Sky Media. To contact us, get more information on today's topic, or subscribe to the podcast, go to code3podcast.com.